All right, welcome back to Equal Time Soccer. I'm Matt Pravratsky alongside my brother Mark, and we have one of the leading goal scorers in the entire country, has been the leading goal scorer for many, many weeks. Khyah Harper of the Gopher soccer team. Khyah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Khyah is coming to us fresh off training. She's coming to us the week of the Big Ten tournament. You have a lot of stuff going on. Khyah, more than anything, what has this fall felt like for you? You've played so many games for the Gophers. You've battled through so many sort of tough, gritty seasons, including a previous Big Ten tournament appearance. But this year has felt so different, not just for the team, but for you individually. Talk about how it feels this fall to be sort of exploding individually, but also while the team is succeeding so much.
Yeah, I mean, it feels amazing to finally have a year where I can showcase myself, and our team is just doing really well. We're clicking really well. So I feel like our team has always had chemistry, but we've struggled on the field with either having defense or lack of offense. So I think that we're really bringing it all together this year, and it's super nice to see.
And I know I've talked to you about this a number of times, like in post game or like in the media availability last week, but I don't think there are that many people in the world who have watched more Khyah Harper games than me. And like, I've seen, it's so funny to see you out there doing what looks like similar moves, like, your similar go-to moves one-on-one with the defender on your back, all these things. And the one thing you've talked about is being fully healthy this fall, or at least even having a fully healthy spring. And it's funny because in so many ways your game looks very much the same to me, but one thing that just screams out is your burst and your speed. Like you can, like when you talk about being fully healthy, I totally believe it, because that looks so different to me. Like you're doing the same move, but you're turning the corner so frequently, you're getting to your spot. Do you feel that when you're out there too? Like that extra burst and that ability to get right by an outside back?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've always had like the speed. It's just having the explosiveness. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
having a spring under my back where I'm just building muscle and I'm
Mm-hmm.
training the entire spring, I feel like I've really been more explosive in my first two steps to really get by that defender and then make a play and use my speed even more.
Yeah, like
Khyah,
that.
I feel like we just lived through this with the Lynx, where like I'm a Minnesotan sports fan through and through. I also support the U.S. men's national team, which is the same sort of pain. And so I followed this Gopher team where I just feel like something of the simple way to say it is this year. Like anytime you'd think, gosh, we wanted it to go through, but it didn't. And this time it feels like stuff just works out. I don't know if there's a feeling of that. Of course, there's really a lot of reasons behind it, of like the actual teamwork and everything. But there must be some sort of feeling from you, because I know you must have had times in other years where you said, I should have scored 10 goals. Well, I was in spots, but now it just works. It talked about that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it feels great to just get a lot of chances, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously one of them is going to go in eventually, and I feel like that's kind of what I've had this year. Like, we've been very productive in our offense, so it's been a lot easier to finish chances when we have the ball in our offensive half a lot of the game, and I think that our team just really clicked over the spring, and then we just kind of brought that over into the fall. And I mean, you can see our results and our rank. Like, we're doing really well this season, and we hope to keep going.
Yeah, and I'm calling all these Big Ten games this week. There's 6 games in 4 days, and
Mhm.
as part of that, I'm trying to do different kind of research on all these squads. And there's a funny data set I've never pulled on before, and it can sort the Big Ten rosters by age. And so I don't know if you realize this, but the Gophers have the oldest roster in the
Yeah.
conference. And once I started thinking about it, it makes sense, just because, like Bowman, Romine, Yell,
Yeah, we have a
Evie,
lot.
Cam, Allie, like all of these fifth years and seniors like you and E. And so it makes sense once you think about it. But I don't know, do you think part of that sort of veteranosity like comes through in the sort of playing together and combining together piece?
Sorry,
Yeah, for
veteranosity.
sure.
Sorry, Khyah. Have you ever heard the word veteranosity before? I just have to.
I've heard
Matt,
of veteran,
Matt.
but
What have you been reading, Matt?
This is not scripted. Mark can tell everyone this is not in the doc.
Veteranosity.
It just comes out. Just comes out.
yeah. Well, I think that being a veteran and having a lot of veterans on our team who are contributing on the field, I think our
Mm-hmm.
chemistry has always been there since day one, because like I played with Bowman before, I played with Yell
Mm-hmm.
before at MTA, so we've always had that chemistry. It's just utilizing it and actually playing together on the field, knowing what each other likes, which I think that we've really done this season, is not like technically what you want to see, but what the player sees and what their abilities are, and individualizing our style of play rather than just playing as a team, which I think that ultimately makes us play better as a team. So I think that's part of our success too.
Yeah, and I think, sometimes it's sort of coach speak and sports speak to say we want to get better every game. We're focused on getting better every game. Erin mentioned that in the last post-game interview I did with her, but it really does kind of feel pretty real for this year's squad to me. Like when I think back to watching you, even games you were winning in non-conference against Creighton or tying Brown or, beating, Milwaukee or whatever, to me, it actually does really feel like you're playing more confidently even than you were back then. And I think you were playing well back then. Do you all sort of feel like that kind of thing is happening where maybe you're peaking at the right time, or at least you have been able to keep progressing? Because it feels like that to me. But as a team and as a player, does that come through in terms of what it feels like on the field?
I think this year we've just been very consistent. We're like in our past years, we've had a couple wins, but then we've lost like a few bad ones that we shouldn't have lost. Where this year I feel like we're very consistent. Like 2 out of our 3 losses are all ranked opponents. I mean, losing to UCLA is not a bad loss at all.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get a rematch. Losing to Penn State, that's not a bad loss at all. We'll get a rematch. So it's just like stuff like that. Like our losses are not bad.
Right.
So I think that like in the beginning of the season, we were playing great, and then we lost Fee, and then we had to put Kate back, which then we had to put Bowman back, so we had to kind of reset it a little, and then we faced adversity, and I mean, it's players are stepping up in the spots they need to help us get results, so it's really nice to see.
Yeah, that's something I've talked about a lot. I think maybe even my season preview, I can't remember, where there are always going to be down games. When you play 20 games in the fall, any team is going to have down games. I mean, USC and UCLA have down games. You guys have down games. St. Thomas has down games. Like, it's just the nature of playing a team sport. And one thing you all have been able to do this year is like your quote unquote bad results, like your bad games, instead of it being a bad loss, it ended up being maybe a tie where you take home points, against a team like Northwestern or Brown or whatever. Even if you're not finishing as well that game, you still took points, and you still, you don't have that loss on your record. Has it felt like sort of the belief is something you all have talked about a lot and Erin has talked about a lot? Does it feel like that's part of how you keep the games from slipping into a loss and you're able to hold them into a tie, like almost making sure your lows aren't quite as low?
Yeah, I think that our team really holds each other accountable, which helps like when we get yelled at, we know it's coming from a place of heart, which makes you then like want to work even harder, because if they're yelling at you, it's probably a bad thing. That means you have to start picking it up. So I think that in those games where we tend to struggle, or like you saw versus Iowa, we got scored on the first 40 seconds. We didn't drop our heads. We were just like, let's wake up. Like, we'll get one back. And then 10 minutes later, we get it back. So like I said, it's just a belief in each other and in our team that we can play anyone in this country and get a result. So
yeah. Well, and that accountability, I think, is pretty big. I think people might underappreciate that that's part of a team reaching its potential. Like, there's been Gopher teams I cover in the past where after a season's done and people are willing to be like more honest and talk to me, like rough seasons like 2019 or whatever, you talk to people after, and one of the things they talk about is like maybe the veterans on the team or just the team in general wasn't really holding each other accountable, and sort of like the collective buy-in then is able to slip, or individual mistakes are able to slip. Does it feel like that accountability is even higher on this year's team than maybe and this is nothing against previous Gopher teams, like your entire career at worst Minnesota's been around 500. Like, they've been really competitive, but does it feel like that accountability is even leveled up?
Yeah, I feel like this year we just have a lot of trust in each other, where like past years, I feel like it was kind of more individualized, where we weren't connecting as well on the field. We had great chemistry off the field. We all love being around each other, as with this team, but this team, we're just connecting really well on the field. And like I said before, like we're just playing to each other's potential, which is ultimately bringing our team even better and closer, and just playing overall better. So I think that just playing with each other's potential and knowing what each person needs, whether it's to be directly yelled at or say it in a positive way. We're like, I'm someone that just say it. and I'm just going to say it, but sometimes, I mean, I can work on it because some people can't, they just, whatever. But yeah, I think that our team knows each other really well, what we need on the field.
And one thing I think sticks out, everyone's going to talk about your goals because it's, it's crazy. You're going to be toward the top of the record books for individual seasons for Minnesota. You're obviously going to be, toward the top of the list for all these attacking accolades because of that goal total. But I think probably what might go underappreciated about your year this year are those 6 assists. Mm-hmm. And for me, the Iowa game's a great example. You talk about going down like 36 seconds into the game, which is just brutal. Mm-hmm. But then I completely agree. The body language did not go down. You all looked confident. There's obviously still 90 minutes to go. You guys know you can score. And eventually you break through on sort of a classic, what used to be a sort of classic Gopher mainstay, which is that outside winger, in this case you, stretching all the way to end line. You beat a defender one-on-one on the dribble, but then you have that perfect diagonal ball right to the PK spot. Paige is there to just clinically finish it. But that assist game, for you as someone who loves to score, how different is the sensation of getting an assist versus getting that goal yourself? Like, what's the difference of, clearly both are great, obviously, but for you, is there a difference of sort of how it feels to get one versus the other?
Honestly, I don't think as long as we're scoring goals and someone's scoring a goal off of my ball, I don't really care. I'm excited either way. I mean, I'm pretty sure in the goal that Paige scored, I was more excited than she was. So, I mean, I'm super happy when they score, and I love going 1v1. So anytime someone finishes one of my crosses, I'm super excited for them. So,
yeah.
I mean, our team we're just in the right spots, and we're doing the right things this year, which is making it easy to assist, and they're scoring the goals. So.
Yeah. What's your, Khyah, so when you, I love watching you cut down the line. Like, you can dribble people, cut inside. Like, I watch you score a lot of different types of goals, and it's really fun to just, you're ruthless. Like, the eye is on the goal, I can tell. Yeah. But for assists, because, I didn't score that many goals. I didn't get that many assists either when I played. But it is fun to assist. Maybe in basketball I got more because there's so many points you have to get some. But what is your favorite way, or what's a maybe something you think's underrated about the way you can set up a teammate? Because people just, they're going to think of goals and they're going to think of easy setups because you're running down the line. But is there something you maybe don't get credit for? Maybe even the coaches don't give you credit for, of teeing people up?
I don't really know. I feel like I personally, I like to go 1v1 because I want to beat that person. I know I'll either get a cross or a corner. Mm-hmm. And that's just one thing that I'm good at. So I think that might go underrated just because of how many goals I have that, like you said, my assist game might not be as up in the air. But I think that maybe my 1v1 battle is because I either get a corner or my cross off. So
yeah. For sure. Well, and it's funny too because you're getting doubled a lot now, which isn't that surprising, where especially when you're all the way out wide, teams try to take advantage of the fact that you might be able to get pinned. And it's been really funny to see you work attempt the split a lot of those times. You'll try and literally split both defenders. And I think at least a couple times against Iowa it worked. I think you got the split. But do you, when you think about being in that final third and earning corners, how do you think about particularly even the penalty drawing stuff? Because you, to me, are not someone that's trying to sell a foul when you get hit. But do you ever think about stuff like that of oh, I'm in the box, or oh, I have a defender on my back? Does that ever enter into your mind?
No, I kind of just expect it at this point. I mean, it's been kind of all season where it's just little nudges in the back. I've gotten pinched a couple times, so I'm just kind of expecting it at this point. So, I mean, I'm not really surprised by it. I was surprised by a couple of the Iowa fouls. I will say that.
Yeah.
I mean, what they were doing, you're not going to get called on. It's just stuff that I wasn't expecting. They were putting their foot through my leg, and I would try to turn, and I'm just tripping. It's just little stuff like that. And obviously, we got the hang of it, but it's just I mean, I'm expecting it. I just wasn't expecting certain things sometimes. But I don't really try to fall in the box unless, I know it's going to be a call and something like that.
Right.
The leg through the leg, Matt. I did that a lot. That's defender. Or what I would do is get my leg to cover both your legs, so no matter what you did, it wouldn't even be it'd be a foul, but not a card. This is the thing. Yeah.
They weren't even calling it in the Iowa game, so I was just I'm trying to keep my feet, but I'm just getting off balance. So I was just like, I just started one touching everything, and then it started working. So
yeah, I will say when I said earlier, like watching you so much, I can sort of close my eyes and see most elements of your game just because you get used to sort of how you move on the field, like things you consistently do. And one thing I will sort of good-heartedly give you a hard time about is even when things are going well and even when you're playing well and even when you're being positive, you have such obvious body language. Like your your body language, like
I do too, Khyah. I do too, man. I'm like,
it's so funny because I think like of all the random like haters that we have in our random mentions who will like complain about the Gophers or sometimes talk shit about you in like ways that are like errant and not accurate. It's funny because I'm like, if you wanted to make fun of Khyah, just tell her to stop being so pouty with her like palms up like to the ref stuff, like or when she doesn't get the ball. But for you when you're out there, is it sort of the type of thing where you're so in the game and you're so locked in and you have so much adrenaline that part of it is sort of like not by choice? Is it almost like your body and your habit, almost like I'm just really frustrated and this is what I look like when I'm frustrated?
I mean, I do need to work on my body language for sure. I think it's just more for the passion of the game. Like, I want the ball, and then if I like don't get the ball, I'm just like, oh, I want the ball so I can make something out of it or something like that. Or if it's like a missed pass, I'm just like, oh. So I'm just like, I know soccer's not a perfect game and I need to fix it, but yeah, it kind of just the passion for the game and just high expectations for my teammates.
No worries, Kat. We're reactionary people too. I used to give Matt, by the way, a nice walk by on University here for people at the Black Art if you're hearing that music. But no, I used to give Matt too much crap for calling for the ball when he wanted it and be like, God, he just wanted the ball, and I was too public. But yeah, no, man, I'm when I'm playing sports, I'm in the moment, dude. I'm right there.
I like do it in the moment and then I forget about it 5 seconds later. So it's just kind of like whatever.
Do you have like random teammate conversations after games where you're like does everyone sort of appreciate that what happens on the field is because of like stress and adrenaline and energy, or are there times where maybe there's so much frustration in a given game that you do like touch base with a random player of like, hey, I saw you we're trying to do that after, sorry, I screamed, like, or does everyone just on the same page of like everyone gets it stressful, or are there moments where you have to do those touch points like after a game?
Honestly, no one has ever, like, what we say on the field just stays on the field. And I mean, sometimes with Roe, we just really want to like know what each other wants. So sometimes we'll be sitting in the living room, me, Bo, Roe, Yell, E, Alex. We'll all just be sitting in the living room, rewatching the game and being like, what do you want me to do here? Khyah, what do you want me to do here? Or I'll be like, do you want me to check there? So I think that that's also really helped our attack and like playing with each other, because now we're starting to know what each other wants. So yeah, I think it's just little stuff like that.
Yeah. And you talked about a little bit back on like the Iowa stuff of a game where they're a very high foul team. I don't know if folks watch these shows, I don't know if they also watch the Gopher broadcast, but like when a team is a high foul team or a high yellow card team, I always talk about that on the broadcast, because to me, those stats actually do tell you about how a team plays. Like I find them to be fairly predictive. Like if you're a very high foul team, it's very rare that you come in and you don't play that way. Like I think it does send a signal, and Iowa is one of those teams, but there's honestly been a lot of teams that play super physical with you. You're sort of naturally pretty strong. We mentioned your speed, but one thing you've always had, even when you weren't fully healthy, was you were always really strong and you had a really strong base. Like your frame has always been strong. And so teams have always played you super physical. But one thing I've been impressed by with you all as a team is that like when you're in games where you're getting yellow carded and fouled and calls are sort of terrible, I've been really impressed that players like you and Roe and other players that can get kind of hot haven't been baited into anything. Like
I got a yellow card in Iowa. That was, I mean, can't say anything bad about the refs, but
I can, Khyah. There was a little bit of mismanagement of the game. Matt calls it, you play it, I don't. I can say it was a little. There was some discrepancy. Things that were yellows, there was a huge range of what a yellow was in that game.
Even like, I mean, ignore it. We won the game, but like the girl that got the yellow card that literally obliterated Paige, she
Yeah.
also caused the PK, which that's the last line of defense. That should be another yellow.
Right.
But it's fine. We
Straight
ended up winning the game. We
crack-
got the PK, but it's just stuff like that where it's like safety hazard at this point.
cracking ribs, dude. Matt, we got to make a gif of that. That was like a hammer, dude.
It
That was side chest to side chest. I don't know how they didn't like literally.
It was
crack
like
a
hip.
rib.
It was like hip to hip. I bet.
Yeah.
I bet Paige is bruised up. Like I
No,
bet she's bruised up.
we talked about it in the locker room today, right before we did film, and it was in there, and Paige is just like, yeah, and she just like right after she got hit, she just popped up. I was like, girl, oh my gosh, I have no idea how you just popped up.
For those who didn't see, essentially on the play, Paige Khyah was running for the ball, sort of running right to or left to right, like across the TV screen or across the field. And a defender came in sort of at a 45-degree angle, and the contact was almost entirely like hip to hip, rib to rib.
They went kind of like crisscross, middle
like
body,
tackle.
It was a
middle body clear out.
Yeah, like an X, and it was, but the entire contact was on like the heart of both of their bodies, and it was
Wind
huge.
knocked out.
like you said, Khyah, like an American football tackle. So it was brutal, but just in general, I think you guys have done a pretty good job. I mean, like, yeah, you complain when a call is like really crazy or whatever. Like the Milwaukee game was pretty brutal, and we won't go back there. But I think in general, you all have shown some good composure in not getting into that yellow card foul game. Does that feel like a little bit more composure than usual for you guys? Because I feel like other teams are doing a little bit more of that to you guys this year than in the past.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of just expect it at this point. Like, teams are going to be physical. It's the Big Ten. We're known for being gritty. Every team is. So I think that we're just ready for it. And I think that when a call is made, we kind of just say, move on. You're not going to reverse the call. And I think that's really helped this year. As you've seen, we don't really feed into the yellow card stuff that much. I think we have like 4 yellows on our team only, and they were all questionable. So I think that we kind of just move on right away from the call.
Yeah. Totally. Well, and one other thing you mentioned, I think during the media avail last week, is I think sometimes people see that it's Erin's 4th fall and they see 4th-year players and they make sort of a misappropriation where they say like, this is her 4th year. Her first class has been here this whole time. They sort of make this jump of Erin started in the fall of that fall. You started in the fall of that fall. So you are Erin's first recruiting class, which isn't true. So to take folks back, Steph Galan takes the Missouri job, I think in May, might have even been June. I think it was May.
Yeah, it was really late.
Erin comes in, I think late July. At most, it was middle of July. And so the incoming recruits that fall were already recruited, signed, and almost literally here from Steph Galan's last recruiting class. And so when you were going through that, because you mentioned it in the media veil, I don't know if we've ever asked you about this on a show. What was the mindset then of that freshman group? Like, did you guys have a group chat where you were like, holy shit, we have no idea. Will this next coach hate me? Will they love me? Who the hell is it going to be? Like, what was the mindset for that freshman group?
Yeah, I mean, we had a group chat. We were all texting. Like, we were all actually on campus before Erin even got like the coach job, and like we had no idea who the coach was going to be. We just knew that it was like, I think they were deciding between 2 women, and then that's all they told us. And we were like, ooh, like who's it going to be? But I mean, honestly, we were like, none of us are recruited by Erin, so we're all kind of in the same spot right now. But we were just like, we kind of have to re-earn a spot where like Steph kind of knew how we played before. Steph knew her previous players. She knew all of us because she recruited us. Where Erin didn't know anything about us. So I think that we're all just like, oh, we have to work harder to earn a spot and like that kind of stuff, especially coming in as freshmen in the first place. So then we had but it ended up being a good transition. Yeah.
Well, and even when Erin does get announced and you all know it's her and whatever, what is that sort of first conversation she even has with you? Like, do you remember back to like what those first impressions were? Because very early on, the impressions everyone kept telling me was like how, I don't know if honest is the right word, but like how direct she was sort of everyone talked about that. Players talked about that. Parents talked about that. Other coaches talked about that. But what were other than her just being a direct communicator, especially compared to maybe other coaches, what were some of those early impressions you remember from like that first few weeks or few months or whatever?
Yeah, I just remember her being very direct and just like, "Hey, I'm Erin. I'm your head coach. Let's get to work." Like basically just that. But I mean, Maya stayed. We all had good
Yeah.
connection with Maya, so there was like a little bit of like goofing around a little bit with Maya and like a little bit more comfortability with her because Erin was new coming in the first place and she was very direct. So we were all like, "Oh gosh," like, and we were like kind of snooping around, like seeing, like texting some of the old people that she coached
Yeah.
at DePaul. So we were like, oh, and then one of the girls said they ran a lot of 300s, and we were like, oh, great. Because I had to run 300s with Danny at MTA, and I was like, just when I thought I got out of those. But it's been pretty good.
Morgan Turner and Megan Maleka,
We're getting
the
their phones were
Minnesota
blowing
Rats.
up.
Basically, yeah,
This is
basically those two.
This is my
Basically.
memory.
Yeah.
When you track the D1 stats every other week, the names become ingrained in your brain in a weird way. So shout out to Megan and Morgan.
Well, and you talk about Maya Hayes, like for years, her time here, they're just, I think maybe multiple seasons in a row, the leading scorer was a midfielder or the tying goal scorer was a midfielder. The forward line scoring production has been like a low key, like point of stress, both for the players and the coaches for years. How much do you think this season is just like a personal fruit basket to Maya Hayes, you scoring this much up top?
I mean, it all started in the spring. I will say we did a lot of offensive drills in the spring.
Yeah.
Which I think, and then in the spring, you saw we were beating. I think we beat Kansas 5-0. Like we had a lot of offensive ability up top. We just weren't utilizing it in the right way, I think.
Yeah.
So then we really built it up over the spring, and then we all got here super early. I want to say like June in this summer, and then we all trained together. We did captain's practices together. So I also think that that's really helped us connect on the field. And then it obviously just translates into the fall and onto this field. So I think that she's really excited to finally have some offensive production. We get a little bit more credit now, so it's pretty nice.
Matt, we have a comment from a watcher here, and I just have to say it's from someone, I don't know who it is, someone named Khyah Harper.
Oh God!
And they just said "Go Khyah," so I didn't want to wanted to make sure we didn't miss that because I figured it's kind of we want to make sure that was in there.
Yeah, shout out Sadie.
Shout out to the older sister, Khyah Harper, longtime equal time all-star and an all-effort give a shit player. We always loved Sadie's time. Well, Khyah, you talked about the spring, so I want to talk about the spring, specifically you singing the national anthem at a spring game. I'm not going to blow up your spot too hard, but I think it's okay. You can signal to me if this is okay. We can reveal a little bit of a detail about the anthem from the spring. It was you were facing the scoreboard. Are we willing to reveal now, months later, the truth of this national anthem moment for you?
I mean, I also sang it in the fall. The spring was my audition.
Oh, there we go.
There is a backup story. You can say what you're going to say first, and then I'll give the reason behind it.
So the spring game.
First of all, Matt's revealing himself. He didn't even know the detail. He's trying to be the beat reporter. He didn't even know you sang it.
I will tell you the detail behind it.
I know. So I show up to a spring game. I think the Kansas game, can't remember. And I go and I'm in the box and folks up there, because I think maybe some of them had to be part of it or whatever. So you go up and folks up there are talking about how Khyah really wanted to sing the anthem, but obviously like doing something like that at a sporting event can be a little bit scary. And so your one ask was, how about maybe we pre-record this bad boy? And I face the scoreboard so people can't necessarily tell that I'm lip syncing right or wrong. And then everyone still I still sang the song. People think I sang the song, but just a little bit of insulation there against the scariness of singing at the event. And I remember thinking it was like, oh man, this is great. This is great.
Well, I wasn't scared. I wanted to do it live. So first things first. But SJ made me do an audition and I kind of messed up. I did great during my live. And at the end of it, I said like, it's from a movie. I said, ladies and gentlemen, start your engine. And then I said that after I sang the national anthem live, and SJ was like, nope, you just lost your chance. That was your audition. And I was like, but what if I lip sing it and I send you a pre-recording? And she's like, okay, we can do that. So that was the only way I could make it work.
So that SJ knew you wouldn't do a last minute like cowboy phrase.
Yeah, or she probably thought I was going to say, like, go Gophers or
Okay,
something.
I mean,
Like,
wow, SJ's job is really wide reaching. She auditions American Idol style. The
yeah,
singers,
I was like,
a lot of power.
yeah, she's like, this is your audition. And then I said that at the end. Looking back,
Wait,
probably
so
shouldn't have said it because then I could have sang it live. But
so when you did, I'm sorry. So Matt and I are both singers. I'm a better singer than a soccer player. When she auditioned you, you sang it to her one-on-one.
no, I sang it in front of the entire team.
Oh wow.
What the fuck? That's such a crazy way to
real.
audition. Khyah, much respect. That is way harder than if it was
That's
just
real.
like at a concert or something.
That's what
You're like
I'm
just
saying. I
it's
would've
like
been in
singing
front
it's like singing to your family at Christmas intimately. Or like that's fucking much respect, dude. That's a crazy way to have to audition.
They were all for it. They were standing there
Holy
like
shit.
this. They were cheering me. There's a
You
whole
sang it
video.
you sang it a cappella to your team.
Yep, straight up on the mic.
That's real.
That's
That's pretty real.
Honestly, dude, that's crazy.
Respect.
Like
Yep.
I would never.
I mean,
would
they
never.
loved the ending, but SJ didn't. So.
By the way, I love the idea of at a soccer game.
Is it
someone
Ricky
saying,
Bobby? What's it from?
No, that's from. Is it from like Cars or something? I don't know.
It's
The
from
idea.
a car movie. It's from a car movie. I forget what movie it's from.
The idea.
Herbie.
By the way, no, she said it's from like yeah. By the way, if someone at a soccer game finished the national anthem and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines," that would be amazing.
I know, that's what I said.
That'd be a good bit. Honestly, it's a solid bit, honestly.
Yeah, for one of my senior gifts, because I like raised my arm in the air, they got me like a shirt with like a picture on it. It's pretty funny.
I like that. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, wow. The story is a million times better than I could have imagined. That's great. Now I'm very glad I brought this up.
Yeah.
So you have been just absolutely lights out this fall. We know that. One really unique thing about this fall is there's sort of a ton of star forwards, all from Minnesota, playing on some very, very high level squads. We got you and Caitlin McBean playing on Thursday at ELR. Folks have to come watch that game. It's a rematch. It's going to be really good. Izzy Engel, as a freshman, is crushing it for Notre Dame. Barrett Parton, obviously, you just battled, playing for Iowa. Maddie Deline, of course, was gone for the U20 World Cup, so her total stats are not going to be like super representative. Miss a bunch of games, but playing for a good UNC team. Tons and tons of others, by the way, but just so many big time Minnesota forwards for you leading the country in scoring so much of the fall, and then so many big time forwards like playing well in that type of spotlight. What does that mean just for you in terms of Minnesota getting recognition that maybe it doesn't always get? One reason we do the roundup of all the D1 Minnesotans is I don't think people think of Minnesota as some hotbed for soccer talent, and we think it sort of gets short shrift. But for you, having all these star forwards and star players across the board, what do you think that means just as a Minnesotan for the state sort of getting a little love and a little attention?
Yeah, I think it's great that Minnesotans are doing so well and bringing attention to our state. I think we are a soccer state. I mean, we have the Loons, Aurora's rising, and I think that MTA has always been great. So I think that Minnesota has always been a soccer state, and actually getting the recognition and having us showcase Minnesota from ourselves and playing on these teams and still being successful. It's just really nice to see Minnesotans just doing well and having success in general.
Yeah, and we'll have a roundup coming up of all the different Minnesota squads who are going to be in the NCAAs. A ton are already sort of locked in as at-larges. Plenty of others like Montana are heavy favorites in their conference tournament. So we're going to have a lot of Minnesotans dancing in the NCAAs. I'm curious too, we talk about sort of star forwards and those stat lines. One player I think gets maybe underappreciated now after that sort of breakout game. Caroline Birdsell, your forward partner on the Gophers, has been so dangerous as a freshman, but I'm sure there's so many other players that even we don't sort of give the love that maybe they deserve, but you're training with these players every single day. You're watching the tape when you see, them making clutch defensive plays that maybe we're not watching because we're tracking the ball. Who are some of those Gopher players that you think maybe don't get enough credit or don't get enough shine and you just want to sort of shout out?
Number one, first person that comes to my head is Elizabeth Overberg. That girl holds our back line down back there. She barely ever makes mistakes, so I think that she deserves the recognition, and she hasn't really gotten much, which I think people need to start watching her play and understand how good she actually is. She's fast, she's strong, she will put her body on the line. So I think she's the number one person that I think deserves way more credit than what she's given. And I think just a lot of people on our team deserve credit. I mean, I could go down the list.
Yeah.
Every single person, I could say something good about them. So I think that that's also a reason why our team is having so much success, is because everyone's grinding out the season and everyone's putting 110% effort in every practice, which even if you're a bench player, when practice comes, you're making the starters better. You're making when you give your best effort. So, I mean, that's kind of been a talk around our team too. Like, if you are playing better, then you're going to make the people that are playing better, and vice versa. When you get a chance on the field, you'll be ready to go in because you've been working your butt off. So I think that mainly Elizabeth deserves a lot more recognition, especially these. We've had the hardest schedule in the Big Ten, and we are winning games against top tier teams like Iowa, number one. We got scored on, but there was also 89 more minutes where we did not get scored on. So I think it's little stuff like that where he just deserves a lot more.
Yeah, E has been an absolute maniac this year. I've talked to her after multiple games. We've tried to showcase her when we can, but and that whole back line, I mean, credit to probably not talked about enough. And you talk about a player earning their spot. Last year, Fiona Skarofsky comes in, eventually earns a starting spot, locks in that starting spot, is so strong that then she comes back this fall as a starting center back, moving from outside back. Terrible luck. She gets that injury against St. Thomas, and the whole defensive line and the whole team has to sort of reset. And Kate Childers has to move to center back like an absolute trooper. And so Overberg is playing next to, Yell has played outside back, but she's sort of a converted defender. Kate is a converted defender. Ashley Turk is also kind of a converted defender and also a freshman. And Overberg and with a new starting keeper, by the way. Yeah, I mean, Elizabeth has been just ridiculous. And she like you, I think her speed and physical tools are even more leveled up. She her recovery speed when she's making some of these recovery tackles. I'm like, damn, E, you have that speed.
We have this one clip that's always in our pregame hype video, and she makes an 80-yard sprint and catches up to the girl, and we are like, that is so underrated. And she got the ball and dribbled up and made a connecting pass. So we were like, it's just stuff like that, especially as a center back, having a fast, physical center back like E, it's very rare to see, I feel like. So I think we're super lucky to have her.
Yeah, it's unreal. And like you said, so many players we could shout out. I mean, it's been such a fun squad to watch and will be even more fun in tournament play, honestly. I'm curious. I'm sort of assuming there maybe had been moments in your past where you already were thinking about possibly playing pro. Obviously, a season like this can make it feel quite a bit more tangible, just with the fact that now people see the full possibility of your game on tape. You have all of these goals, all these examples of I can do this, I can do that, I can pass, I can work middle, I can work edge, whatever. So have you thought about that before, and how much more tangible does it feel for you now as something you could do once your college days are over?
Honestly, going into this season, it wasn't even a thought on my mind to play pro, just because I wasn't really successful. Our team wasn't very successful, so I didn't really get much to even build off of to play pro. And after injuries, I was just kind of my spark kind of went away. And now that it's finally back, it's been in the back of my head, and I've talked to my family a little bit about it. And my dad's like, just do it. Just go pro for 1 year. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. So honestly, we'll have to see. I'm just focused on the season right now. So I haven't really thought of it much.
Listen, teams, don't bug Khyah during tournament play. She's got to play. Bug us instead. Our DMs are open. We'll filter them for you. Don't worry. We'll
bug us them all instead. After. Matt's all of a sudden inserting himself as an agent.
Don't worry. Listen. I will say the same sort of lack of shine that Minnesota soccer players in general have gotten for college and everything. The same is really true for the pros. There's players who have come through the Gopher program or are Minnesotans that just I will just say there aren't that many agents in women's soccer, and there aren't that many that have been around a long time. And we constantly hear from players who have a tough time finding a good agent, finding the right fit. And that actually does lead to fewer opportunities for these women. Like these players that could play in the USL Super League or maybe in the NWSL or certainly overseas, they don't always get that opportunity. And so I do think like more and more players coming through to showcase like this pipeline of talent is huge, because like teams maybe aren't going to take a risk if they don't have good confidence, and they need to be a little more confident about some of these players coming through. So yeah, I mean, no one's going to actually DM us, but
I'm picking up the signal that yes, I'll become an agent for Equal Time Sports for the agency you're trying to start for women's soccer. Yes, I'll do it.
Listen, we know these players, man. We've seen Khyah play like 100 games. We know these players. I'm curious to
Salvo, baby, Salvo.
Love Salvo.
There you go. And I'm curious, Khyah, you spend so much time in the game, like training. You talked about even at home with your roommates, like watching tape and all this stuff. Like being a college soccer player is so much work, and it's so mentally taxing. It's so emotionally taxing. It's one of the reasons why we do the coverage the way we do, because you all just go through so much. And so I'm curious, like, what are some ways that you like to decompress and just like get away when you have to not think about the game? Is it like trashy TV? Is it like books? Is it like going to restaurants? Like, what's the way you can decompress and just like get the stress of the game like off of your body?
I mean, I don't really get nervous about games. I just kind of think it's just another soccer game. So
yeah,
I mean, our team we see it in practice every day. We know how we can play. So I'm not really stressed or nervous about games. It's more just like time management that I'm stressed about with like school, social life, making sure I'm watching film, making sure I'm doing my best at practice. So it's just a lot at once. And like, so I think that my best way to decompress, I kind of just chill in my room by myself, just kind of watch shows, just do random stuff, call my family. So
what are some go-to shows? Hit us with the list.
Right now I'm watching Outer Banks. The new one just came out. So I'm a little behind on that, but
there we go. What's it like for you to like watch soccer as a fan? Like when you're just like watching, whatever version of, the national team or whoever, like, do you watch it? Are you able to consume it as a fan, or like, can you turn your sort of player and analytical brain off, or do you process it like you're watching tape?
Yeah, I process it like I'm watching tape. Like every time I walk into the house, Ro always has some sort of soccer game on, or she's always like, Khyah, you want to watch this soccer game? It's later today. I'm like, yeah, let's just watch it. And then she barely has any class. So I'm just like, she's like, Khyah, you see this? And she'll like re-go back when I see it, because I'm trying to do my homework and watch the film at the same time. So it's kind of funny, but we're always watching soccer. We watched men's soccer. I think it was UNC Stanford, maybe. We watched that game. It was a good game.
Random ACC men's soccer getting a shout out in the Roma and Harper household.
Yeah, it was so random. We always have soccer on. That's one thing.
That's great. Well,
or football.
Sure. I think I've seen you in Packer jerseys, right? Is this?
Oh yeah.
This is okay. Yeah. So some spice for the Minnesota fans. I like it.
Oh yeah.
Well, go Patco. I don't care. I don't care about the Vikings.
You know what? Packers. Mark and I actually don't care about the NFL. So if you want to shout out the Packers, this is a safe space.
Keep rolling, Pack.
Well, Khyah, we're not going to take more of your time. You have a crazy weekend coming up on Thursday. The Gophers host Penn State. I believe it's at 6:30 at Elizabeth Lau Robbie Stadium. If you have never been to a Gopher soccer game, if you have never been to a women's soccer game, if you for some reason are hearing this or hearing about this, you have to go check out a game at ELR. It is, when they played Iowa on Sunday, there was 1,500 people there. It was absolutely packed. It was loud as hell. It was fun as hell. The quality of soccer at the Big Ten tournament is going to be so absurdly high. Like if you saw that Minnesota-Iowa game, that was such good soccer. I cannot say it enough. It wasn't good for women's soccer. It wasn't like good for college soccer. It was great soccer. And so go check them out. There's games on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. Khyah Harper will be playing at 6:30 against Penn State. Thanks so much for joining us, Khyah.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
There we go.
What SJ's responsibilities.
That's great. That's a lot of power.
Why? I'm challenging with the fern here. I'm really in the real space, you guys. But no, I'm gonna cut out in 10 minutes to go
Well,
bartend. I got my loons babies on the patio with me, as you can see. They're coming in.
Yep.
I'm a real game day reporter.
Minnesota United playing in the playoffs. So Mark is working at Blackheart. If folks are watching now, head down there. I'll be going down there. Mark, let's.
By the way, we'll have and speaking of Gophers, Thursday night when they play, it's too close to when I work, so I can't go to the game. We'll have it on at the bar at 6:30. So we'll have it on at least somewhere in the bar. Obviously, if you can go. And like if you're an Aurora fan who's never gone to a Gopher game, go, man. I mean, anyone, but it's just it's an awesome place to watch a game.
Yeah.
And check it out. But yeah, we can do some quick Summit hits before I drop out.
Let's go. I'll burn through some of the Summit League stuff. Huge news out of the Summit. There are tons of Minnesotans on these squads, so it's sort of fun to track them. North Dakota State pulls off a huge Cinderella story regular season championship. The Summit League in their announcement put it the best way you could say it. It's like, I think the first time the women's soccer champion has come from a team that didn't make the conference tournament the year before. So just a really cool moment. We listed every single one of the Minnesotans on the Summit League tournament teams on Twitter. You can go find that. The games are coming up. There's going to be a lot of overlap with the Big Ten tournament, so you'll need to just find some nooks and crannies to sort of watch these opening games. On Friday, SDSU playing USD and South Dakota, and then on Saturday, Omaha playing Oral Roberts, and then the semis are next week, Thursday and Sunday. And it is going to get so nuts in this tournament. The Omaha Oral Roberts side in particular is crazy. The winner of that will go and play NDSU. And then the South Dakota Cup winner will go play Denver. And the semis and final are both in Fargo. We will be up there to cover it. I'm not sure if we'll be up there for the semis or the final. Probably won't be both. But we'll be up there. Let us know spots we should check out in the Fargo area.
Yeah.
Mark, what were some stats that jumped out from the Summit League?
We highlighted this forward because NDSU's forward by far is leading the Summit League in points and goals. Morgan Russman. Didn't realize because it was a quick thing when we were prepping for all these shows. Freshman, but expectedly scoring these goals because when I looked closer, they set the all-time single-season goal scoring record in Iowa as a junior at 41. As a senior, they topped it with 47 goals. They finished with 137 in 4 years. They're the all-time Iowa scoring champ, and they were also a state champ in basketball. So
crazy.
Not surprising, but yeah, fun. And we'll get to highlight some more players in more depth as we watch those tournaments, and also get to make a point when we get to actually dig in on those tournaments, highlight some defenders that we don't get out of stats and certain things that we can't get when we don't watch all the games.
Yeah, we'll do a full rundown both on social and maybe on the website for all these players. Just tons of Minnesotans shining out. Caitlin Belkey, Emma Knack. I mean, just mountains and mountains of Minnesotans that we can't list them all right now. For the NSIC, this race is getting absolutely nuts. I know we've been saying that too much. I know I've been saying it constantly, but that's because it is absolutely crazy. Mark,
we're
talk
down
a little about there.
Yeah, we're down to where it's becoming very, very clear who has a chance. So Minnesota State Mankato firmly in an at-large spot. You know, the coaches wouldn't say it, but we will. You know, they'll make it no matter what from this point out. St. Cloud State likely as well, unless maybe they just fully emptied just lost everything. But they've taken advantage of their softer schedule to become a team that, from projections of the people we've been looking at Inkblot Sports, especially, shout out to them. Yeah, they're projected at a 7 seed in the Central region.
Their softer schedule recently. So the schedule imbalance of the NSIC means all their tougher NSIC games were early, and now they get sort of non-tournament teams to close things out.
Unique, they really literally had like one playoff team in the whole second half. So they're taking advantage of that because they had a lot of draws early. And then for the fun race after, I mean, Augustana, Concordia St. Paul, and Minot are all the teams in terms of the actual formula that would be the next squads. But I will go ahead and include, UMary and Bemidji State based on what they do. Bemidji has some tough games, and they haven't been the same type of, they haven't been as bulletproof as the past years, but they still have the room to both win the tournament, or you'd have to say if they won out and maybe win a couple games.
Yeah.
You don't know.
All of that
yeah,
whole cluster, like Mark mentioned, Augie, Concordia, Minot, Bemidji, their path is by, and Mary, their path is by making a run in the conference tournament or maybe winning it. So there's going to be like 5 different teams that all have real opportunity to either maybe get in that large bid or they have a shot at winning the conference tournament. It's going to be absolutely crazy.
But it's extremely tight. Like we said, I mean, Minnesota State still up top, St. Cloud, Augie. But like, if you look at the points from, say, position from like 5th place to 9th, it's 5 points. Like everyone is so close. So yeah, the last few weeks, I mean, it will determine a lot. And of course, I mean, mainly those teams getting into the end of the NSIC. It's not about necessarily that they're going to win it and make the NCAAs, but any of these teams could really spoil your path, and it shows. I mean, you're seeing the way Minnesota State Mankato had a 9er against Morehead State. They had another, but yet they drew Northern 0-0 and they drew Wayne 0-0. Two teams that are not. I mean, they're competitive, but so that shows in the tournament anything will be possible. Clearly,
and so right now. Mankato, St. Cloud, Augustana, Concordia, Mary, Bemidji, Minot, and Northern are the 8 conference tournament teams as of right now.
And Wayne right close to them.
Just below them is Wayne State and Winona, which I think both technically have a path. Wayne particularly has a path that would be very, Winona. Very tough. And so right now it's likely those 8, have a way to stay that way. Big games coming up, Bemidji versus Mankato and Augie versus Northern on Friday. That's this week. That is a huge, huge day for all 4 of those teams. The decision day is actually on a Thursday, which is unique for the NSIC. That's on Thursday, November 7th. Not a ton should be decided that day, but Mary does play Northern, and Northern could play spoiler for some seeding there. And then a reminder for folks, the first round of the NSIC tournament is on Monday, November 11th. Mark and I are likely going to do a whip around for all 4 of those games. Those will be taking place at the top 4 seeds, with 5 through 8 playing at 1 through 4. And then lastly, just a shout out, we'll do more of this NCAA stuff. There's Wake, TCU, UNC, Notre Dame, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Penn State, and Iowa all look like locks for the NCAAs, all with Minnesotans on it. Got the Blackheart owner, Wes Burdine, there making a cameo. Oh. And then Wisconsin also likely a lock, or we already mentioned them as a lock. Yeah, teams like Montana have good odds in the conference tournament. Teams like Army and Colgate in the Patriot League. Too many to list. The Summit League winner, the Horizon, has Milwaukee. The Missouri Valley is loaded with Minnesota teams. So too many to list.
We'll have bigger written stuff to fully dive in, because the list becomes big, thankfully, because there's a lot of Minnesotans that are going to be in the tourney. But I got to go make my money so I can do the equal time stuff still.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. Thanks to Pentz Homes for making this coverage possible. Big Ten tournament this weekend, Summit League tournament this weekend. We watch women's sports, baby.
We still have some shirts of these at the Blackheart, by the way. If you show up, we have some different sizes. Show up and talk to me. We'll get you going.